What book is that? A roll of arms, sir. Looking for the fiddler? You won't find him. They don't put hedge knights in those rolls. Just lords and champions. Duncan the Tall, an egg, a knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the Mystery Knight. In a medieval setting such as Westeros, heraldry and arms are an important part of the culture, just as they were in real-world history. Even today, things such as heraldry are a vital part of how our society works. But now, house banners have been replaced by company logos and house words, taglines and slogans. In a way, heraldry is a way of marketing your house, or maybe even yourself, to others. When you see the golden lion on red of House Lannister, or the twin bridges of the Freys, you get an idea of who they are and what they are about. In its most basic form, heraldry is the art and science of blazoning a coat of arms. It is used by royalty and nobility as a sign of status, and as such it is an important part of feudal society of the Seven Kingdoms. Most noble houses of Westeros have their own designs, and variants of these designs are adopted by only members of the house. In most cases, these tend to be heirs to the seat or younger sons, wishing to forge identities of their own. Bastards sometimes use personal heraldry. Most of the time, they simply reverse the colours of their father's house, such as Daemon Blackfyre, famously reversing the Targaryen colours. Ironically, if Jon Snow was to reverse the colours of House Stark's coat of arms, his heraldry would be a white wolf on grey, which is ironic given his direwolf ghost. Daemon Blackfyre's half-brothers, other members of the Great Bastards, also came up with original designs for their heraldry, even if they are somewhat inspired by the lineage. In rare cases where a cadet branch of a house forms from a younger son or a knight being granted lands, or even bastard children being legitimised, these personal banners would become the heraldry of this new house. Hedge knights or landless knights will often have their own personal heraldry as a way to identify themselves at tourneys, with in some cases, if the knight rises high enough, these personal arms becoming the arms of a new house. Coats of arms are commonly used by knights in tourneys and on battlefields as a way to identify allies from enemy soldiers in the heat of battle. Thus it's often displayed on shields, surcoats and banners. Conversely, mystery knights that want to remain anonymous use blank or unknown coats of arms. In a video from a few weeks ago, we spent some time looking at the history of the Targaryen heraldry and all of the personal arms associated with that. So if you're looking for information specifically about House Targaryen, I would encourage you to watch the video that's linked in the pinned comments. But in this video, we're going to be taking a look of all the other known personal heraldry in Westeros that we know of, and the history and lore behind them. You Westerosi are all the same. You sew some beast upon a scrap of silk, and suddenly you're all lions and dragons or eagles. Ilario Mopatis to Tyrion Lannister. A Dance with Dragons Chapter 1. Tyrion 1. In the War of the Five Kings, 3 of the 5 kings use some form of personal heraldry, which is especially helpful as 3 of the kings in question are technically from House Baratheon. The first of these is actually questionable, as if it's truly personal heraldry. In the wake of Robert's rebellion, House Baratheon split into 3 distinct branches. House Baratheon at King's Landing, with Robert Baratheon as the head of the house, with it being the royal family, and the most senior branch. Renly Baratheon would be granted Storm's End, the former seat of the senior branch of the house, becoming House Baratheon of Storm's End, and Stannis Baratheon was granted Dragonstone, forming House Baratheon of Dragonstone. Prior to Robert's death, all 3 branches used the traditional Baratheon stag banner, but after Robert's death, the new king, Joffrey Baratheon, changed the King's Landing banner to a new design using something called marshalling, which is to combine several coats of arms on one shield to express inheritance or lineage. This can also be done in a number of other ways. The simplest way of doing so is one whole coat of arms on each half of the banner. Joffrey has his mother's house Lannister on the left and his father's house Baratheon on the right. Some view this as Joffrey being more Lannister than Baratheon, which is ironic given his true parentage. Stannis Baratheon, for the Dragonstone branch, takes for his personal banner a crowned stag enclosed with a red heart, surrounded by a blaze of orange fire on a field of sun yellow, which is clearly in reference to his conversion to the worship of the red god, R'hllor. Renly Baratheon keeps the traditional Baratheon banner. Robb Stark also uses a personal banner, but it's not clear exactly when he began to use it, or how long into the War of Five Kings he continues to use it. But it does seem like it existed prior to the war, with the traditional Stark banner taking more precedence after he becomes King in the North, which seems to be the normal practice when someone inherits. But he did use a personal heraldry of a grey direwolf's head on white, opposed to the Stark traditional full direwolf. It appears he may have used his heraldry on his shield. I might mention that the rules of heraldry are a good deal more flexible in the Seven Kingdoms than they became in the late Middle Ages in the real world. There are no laws of heraldry per se, no college of heralds for enforcement, no formal regulations about candidacy and differentiating, so individual knights and lords have a certain amount of freedom to bear what shields they prefer and play around with their house sigils, or not, as the case may be. George R. R. Martin on Heraldry in Westeros. While heirs do commonly use personal heraldry, it seems to be more often used by younger sons and brothers of lords of noble houses who may wish to distinguish himself from other members, perhaps seeking an identity of their own. They usually use an adaptive form of their own house arms, but in some cases they will create heraldry entirely separate from their house. During the main book series, we see a few iconic cases of this happening. Brynden Tully, the younger brother of Lord Hoster Tully, changed the traditional silver trout on the Tully heraldry to a blackfish, in reference to his nickname, the Blackfish. When Catelyn Tully was 8 years old, Hoster began calling Brynden the black goat of the Tully flock during an argument. Brynden pointed out the sigil was a fish, which made him a black fish instead of a black goat. Brynden took for his personal sigil the Tully emblem, but with a black trout jumping instead of a silver one, with him becoming known as the Blackfish ever since. Two members of House Tyrell have personal heraldry, and are examples of one of the most common forms of adapting a house's heraldry. Sir Garland Tyrell, the second son of Lord Mace Tyrell, uses the traditional gold rose on green of House Tyrell, but added a second rose in reference to him being the second son. His younger brother, Sir Loras Tyrell, the third son, does the same as his elder brother, but adds a third additional gold rose. We then have some examples of adaptations of house heraldry, which while can be different from the original, more so than the examples given with House Tyrell, but keeping references to their houses. In The Hedge Knight, we see 3 examples of this at the tourney at Ashford Meadow. As we know, the heraldry of House Blackwood is a flock of ravens on scarlet surrounding a dead weirwood upon black. We see at Ashford 3 members of House Blackwood compete in the tourney. Roger Blackwood takes the scarlet and raven aspect of House Blackwood, using 4 black ravens on a scarlet field. It is speculated this is because he is the 4th son. A Robert Blackwood uses the scarlet and weirwood aspect, with his personal heraldry consisting of 2 weirwoods on scarlet, suggesting he could be the 2nd son. Then there is Roland Blackwood, who follows suit by adding a 3rd weirwood, suggesting he could be the 3rd son. Also seen at Ashford was the personal arms of Tybalt Lannister, the heir to his father Daemon Lannister. His personal heraldry took the traditional golden lion of House Lannister on red, but with an added golden trim around the border. It appears that when he became Lord of Casterly Rock, he began using primarily the traditional Lannister heraldry. Sir Piers Carron, another knight present at Ashford, is a good example of personal heraldry being less connected to his house. As well as a skilled tourney knight, Piers was a renowned singer and harp player. He was said to be as skilled with a high harp as he was with a lance. Thus he blazoned his shield with a silver harp on yellow, though his surcoat was patterned with the nightingale of House Carron. Isambard Arryn, the head of House Arryn of Goldtown, a cadet branch of House Arryn active during the regency of King Aegon III, was one of several claimants to the lordship of the main branch of the house, but was ultimately rejected. Isambard was known as the Gilded Falcon due to his immense wealth. He took the normal blue falcon banner of House Arryn and made the falcon gold in reference to this. During the timeline of the main books, Walder Rivers, the eldest bastard son of Lord Walder Frey, did something a bit different with his personal heraldry than most bastards would. Typically, they would just reverse the colours of their father's house, which in the case of the heraldry of House Frey, blue twin castle on grey, would make Walder River's heraldry a grey twin castle on blue. However, he took this one step further, adding a red Ben Sinster across the castle, perhaps highlighting and distancing himself even further from his true-born siblings. Euron Greyjoy is a very interesting case. He's one of the younger brothers of Lord later King Balon Greyjoy, with Euron having personal heraldry utterly unrelated to the Greyjoy banner at all. Euron uses a red eye with a black pupil beneath a black iron crown supported by two crows. It seems some of the design is linked to his nickname, the Crow's Eye, and the fact he is also missing an eye. There is some suggestion of it being linked to some other more mystical forces. You could in fact make a whole video on its own just about the symbolism of Euron's heraldry and maybe how this could foreshadow his role in the Winds of Winter. Many forget that Tyrion Lannister also briefly used his own personal heraldry during his time as the Hand of the King during A Clash of Kings. He adapted the traditional golden lion on red of House Lannister, changing it to a golden hand encircled by several golden lions on red, in reference to his role as the Hand of the King. We know in lore that members of the Small Council have been known to use personal heraldry which reference their role, but Tyrion is only one of two examples we have of this. For example, we know recent hands like Eddard Stark, Jon Arryn and Tywin Lannister never used this kind of heraldry, but there must be some more lore out there of those who did, and we just don't know about it. I could very much see someone like Otto Hightower doing this, but given how much detail we have about the Dance of the Dragons, it would be strange we have no records of it. Wisdom Rezat, the final Hand of the King Aerys II, who was also the head of the Pyromancers Guild, had his own personal heraldry that is not linked directly to his role as Hand of the King. A hand holding a torch lit with green fire, and a chief lit with green flame on silver, which is of course reference to the alchemist's wildfire which they were producing for King Aerys. Littlefinger, Peter Baelish's personal arms, is also very interesting, given this is a case of personal arms replacing the traditional house arms. Originally, House Baelish used a grey stone head with fiery eyes on a light green field, but Littlefinger would change it to a field of silver mockingbirds on green, his own personal arms. Similarly, Quinton Ball, known as Fireball, was a knight of House Ball during the reigns of King Aegon IV and Daeron II Targaryen. His personal coat of arms was a fireball blazing red and yellow across a night black field. He was one of the key supporters of Daemon Blackfyre during the First Blackfyre Rebellion, and his personal arms became iconic as part of the rebellion, given how much it stands out from many other personal sigils. Well, I have to admit, I enjoy heraldry just for its own sake, although I have played fast and loose with some of the real-world heraldic conventions. A lot of bad fantasy takes place in a sort of Disney Middle Ages, and that has no appeal to me. But I did not want to write thousands of pages about mud and lice and plague either. That would just be false in the other direction. The real Middle Ages had room for both plague and pageantry, and I wanted both sides in my book as well, heightened somewhat since this is fantasy. George R. R. Martin on heraldry in A Song of Ice and Fire. There are a few notable characters in the main book who use personal arms, who you might not have expected to. Barbary Dustin, who was a Ryswell before her marriage, is the current Lady of Barraton as the widow of Willem Dustin, Lord Barraton. She was born into House Ryswell as the younger daughter of Roderick Ryswell, Lord of the Rills. She used the personal heraldry, quartering the arms of her husband's house Dustin with that of her father, so the spiked crown and crossed long axe of House Dustin quartered with the golden horse head of Roderick Ryswell's personal arms. Characters like Harold Harding take it one step further, where he includes both his mother and father's house, along with his Arryn heritage. Harold, often called Harry the Heir and sometimes Young Falcon, is a gallant Hampson squire and ward of Lady Anya Waynwood. He's the cousin and presumed heir of Lord Robert Arryn and would ascend to rule of the Vale as Harold Arryn, should Lord Robert die without issue. Harold's arms consist of the banners of House Harding and Waynwood in the first and third quarters, and the Arryn banner in the second and fourth quarters. Lothar Brune was granted lands for his role in the Battle of the Blackwater, where he killed 3 members of House Fossaway, earning him the nickname Lothar Apple Eater, given the heraldry of House Fossaway is an apple. Thus for his personal arms he takes a brown bear paw of House Brune, but adds 3 apple cores above it. What I like about Lothar's heraldry is it shows how heraldry can evolve over time with personal achievements. Given how many children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren Walder Frey has, it's no surprise many of them have their own personal heraldry to make themselves stand out. Aemon Rivers takes his father's crossed-out bastard Frey banner and quarters it with his mother's house, a lady of House Charlton, 3 green mistletoes on gold. Ben Frey quarters the arms of House Frey with that of his mother's house, House Rosby, and their 3 red chevrons. Cleos Frey, the eldest son of Aemon Frey and Jenna Lannister, the younger sister of Tywin Lannister, quarters his arms with the heraldry of House Frey and the golden lion of House Lannister. Big Walder Frey, the son of Ser Jamos Frey and Celia Page, uses personal arms depicting 2 quarters of the twin towers of House Frey with the weird-tree raven of House Blackwood and the twinning snakes of House Page. The Blackwood heraldry is in reference to his grandmother, who was the 4th wife of Lord Walder and a Blackwood. Little Walder, the son of Merritt Frey and Marina Darry, uses a similar coat of arms depicting 2 quarters of the twin towers of House Frey with the brindled boar of House Crakeall and the ploughman of House Darry. We think the Crakeall inclusion is in reference to his grandmother, the 3rd wife of Lord Walder. Knight is the truest kind of knight, Dunk. Other knights serve the lords who keep them, or from whom they hold their lands, but we serve where we will for men whose causes we believe in. Sir Arlan of Pennytree to Dunk, a knight of the 7 kingdoms, the Hedge Knight. Hedge Knight free riders and other highborn knights will often use their own personal arms, like most to give themselves an identity and to make them more recognisable to lords who may wish to take them into their service. If these Hedge Knights or free riders rise high enough, their personal heraldry could become a new house banner. There are many Hedge Knights with personal arms mentioned in the books, some with such little lore, so we're going to take a look at the ones we know the most about and have the most impact in the story. In the main books, when he is knighted for his role in the Battle of the Blackwater, Bronn adopts the personal arms of a steel chain covered in green wildfire, referencing his role in the battle. One of the earliest personal arms we see in the main books is that of Hugh of the Vale. He was the squire to Lord Jon Arryn, who became a knight upon his lord's death. He used part of the Arryn heraldry as his arms, taking a crescent moon on blue. Arguably the most iconic Hedge Knight in the series is Ser Duncan the Tall, the protagonist of the Dunk and Egg novellas, in my opinion George R. R. Martin's best work. After the death of Sir Arlan of Pennytree, whom Dunk was a squire to, Dunk was supposedly knighted by Sir Arlan before his death. As personal arms, he takes a green shooting star above an elm tree, proper on sunset. A sunset because Sir Arlan liked them, an elm tree for the tree by his camp, and a shooting star for the lucky one he had seen. He would briefly use a second personal arms during the Mystery Night, where he entered the White Walls tourney as a Mystery Knight. He used the sigil of an unknown knight, consisting of a hanged man swinging grim on grey beneath a gallows tree. Arlan of Pennytree's own arms were a silver-winged chalice on brown. We don't know why he chose this arms, but it may be because he had a connection with House Hersey, whose arms also feature a winged chalice. Dennis of the Brown Shield is an interesting example. He worked with Ser Duncan during the events of the Sworn Sword. He had maybe the most simple arms we've seen so far. A simple, basic, brown shield. It very much reflects his character. In the Mystery Night, John the Fiddler, Daemon II Blackfire in disguise as a Hedge Knight, uses personal arms of an engrailed cross in gold on a blue field, with golden fiddle in the first and third quarter and a golden sword in the second and fourth. It very much fits the bard-like character of Daemon while he is pretending to be John the Fiddler. Mystery Knights will often use no heraldry, or something unrelated to their normal. We see this during the tourney of Harrenhal in the build-up to Robert's Rebellion, where the Mystery Knight, known as the Knight of the Laughing Tree, enters the lists. Their name comes from the blazon on their shield, a smiling weirwood. The knight's true identity is unknown, but some speculate it could potentially be Lyanna Stark, defending the honour of Howland Reed. The impact this Mystery Knight has on the course of history that leads to the main book series cannot be understated, which is why that Laughing Tree heraldry has become so iconic.